Los Angeles is quiet before sunrise. The streets are empty. The air feels heavy. A young mother walks across a quiet field with her baby. She notices something strange in the grass. At first, she thinks it is a broken mannequin. Then she moves closer. Without knowing it, she steps into the beginning of one of the most haunting unsolved cases in history. Within hours, the city will panic. The newspapers will erupt. A young woman's name will become a legend that refuses to fade. This is not just a mystery. This is a story time could never erase. Her name was Elizabeth Short. She was 22 years old. She was born in Massachusetts and grew up during difficult times. Her family struggled. Her childhood was not easy. Yet she carried herself with quiet grace. Elizabeth dreamed of becoming an actress. She believed California would offer her a new beginning. Like many young women before her, she traveled west with hope in her heart and ambition in her eyes. Friends later described her as gentle, soft-spoken, polite. She avoided conflict. She trusted people easily. Some said she lived in her own world of dreams, imagining a brighter life than the one she had. She often wore black dresses. She styled her hair carefully. She liked dark lipstick. Her appearance stood out in crowded rooms. After her death, reporters gave her a name that would echo far beyond her real identity. The Black Dahlia. But before the headlines, before the myth, before the legend, she was simply a young woman chasing a future she never reached. On January 15, 1947, the quiet of Los Angeles was broken. In a vacant lot on the edge of a neighborhood, Elizabeth Short was found. Police arrived within minutes. Officers sealed the area. Detectives studied the ground in silence. By late morning, her identity was confirmed. The name spread quickly from one office to another. Then beyond the city. Word traveled faster than the sun could rise. Radio stations interrupted their programs. Newspapers rushed to their presses. Crowds gathered outside the police station, waiting for answers that did not exist yet. For many, it was not just a crime. It was something darker. Something that felt carefully planned. From the very beginning, details did not fit together cleanly. Timelines conflicted. Witness accounts shifted. Small clues pointed in different directions. The city wanted certainty. The case offered only questions. Detectives worked without rest. The case moved from desk to desk. Phones rang through the night. Every hour brought new questions and no clear answers. They interviewed hundreds of people. Hotel clerks. Cafe workers. Taxi drivers. Strangers who claimed they had spoken to her only once. Each voice added another fragment to the puzzle. None of them completed the picture. Investigators traced Elizabeth's final days across the city. Cheap hotel rooms. Crowded diners. Bus stops where she waited with no clear destination. She moved often. She trusted easily. She told different people different stories about where she was going next. Several people admitted they had been with her shortly before she disappeared. Friends. Acquaintances. Men who claimed they cared. Yet every path detectives followed seemed to end in uncertainty. Alibis could not be broken. Timelines did not align. Stories changed when questioned twice. Leads arrived daily. So did false hope. One promising clue would surface in the morning. By nightfall, it would fade into nothing. The case began to feel less like a trail and more like a maze. The press did not wait for answers. Newspapers rushed to print, racing to outdo each other. Headlines screamed across the city, turning a tragedy into sensation. Radio hosts speculated openly. Each broadcast added another layer of rumor, another twist of the story. Some of it was true. The city could feel the letters too. Newspapers printed them. Radio hosts read them aloud. Families whispered about them at breakfast tables and in offices. Fear and fascination entwined, turning Elizabeth's story into something larger, something that could not be contained by the facts alone. With every new note, one question lingered over Los Angeles: who was sending these letters, and why? Over the years, the case produced a long list of names. Dr. George Hodel, a prominent Los Angeles physician, became a prime suspect decades later after investigators reviewed his home and personal writings. The files grew thick with names. Mark Hansen, who watched her from the edges of a nightclub. Leslie Dillon, a man obsessed with the darker side of the human mind. Each was a shadow, but none of them fit the shape of the killer. Even people who confessed, like Joseph Dumais and Robert Manley, proved to be unreliable. Each confession was examined meticulously. Timelines did not match. Evidence could not confirm guilt. Alibis held. Some confessions were later believed to be attempts to seek fame or manipulate police attention. Investigators chased every lead. Interviews stretched over weeks. Files piled high. Yet with each new name, the trail only seemed to grow colder. The city watched, hungry for closure. Rumors swirled. Some believed the killer had walked free among them, unseen. Others wondered if he had died without ever being caught. As decades passed, the case went cold. Leads disappeared, witnesses faded, and the truth remained just out of reach. Even now, more than 70 years later, the suspects are remembered not for convictions, but for the shadows they left in one of America's most infamous unsolved murders. Decades have passed, and the file on Elizabeth Short remains open, a puzzle with missing pieces. Because there was no conviction, the void has been filled with theories, some grounded in evidence, others born of legend. Much of it was exaggerated. Names were repeated, stories distorted, and the young woman at the center became something larger than life, a figure both mourned and mythologized. Elizabeth's life, her struggles, her dreams, they were no longer private. Every cafe, every bus stop, every acquaintance she had known became fodder for the stories. Her hopes for an acting career were reduced to gossip, whispered in newspaper columns and echoed across radios in every home. The public demanded justice. They demanded answers. They demanded someone to pay for the horror that had occurred in their city. And every demand pressed heavier on the shoulders of detectives, who were already chasing shadows and contradictions. Each morning brought more letters, more tips, more people claiming to know something. Some were desperate to help. Others were seeking attention. The line between fact and fiction blurred. And through it all, the truth remained just out of reach. The city watched. The media watched. And the young woman's name, whispered in fear and fascination, would soon become a legend that refused to fade. Then the letters began to arrive. Envelopes and packages appeared at the Los Angeles Examiner and Herald Express, each more strange and unsettling than the last. Some contained clippings of Elizabeth's photographs. Others carried small items that had belonged to her. Words were cut from magazines and glued together, forming cryptic messages that seemed designed to taunt anyone who read them. Some believed the sender was the killer, watching from the shadows and daring the city to notice. Others whispered it was a cruel hoax, someone exploiting a tragedy for attention. Police examined each note carefully, checking fingerprints, handwriting, and postmarks, searching for any trace of the person behind the words. But nothing revealed a face. Nothing proved intent. Each letter only deepened the mystery, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The most enduring theory points to Dr. George Hodel. Years after his death, his own son, a former LAPD detective, uncovered photos and clues suggesting his father possessed the surgical skill and the dark profile required for such a crime. Yet, despite the compelling arguments, no court ever heard the case. Other investigators looked toward the shadows of the nightlife Elizabeth moved through, wondering if a chance encounter with a stranger turned into a calculated trap. Then there are the letters. Were they truly from a killer seeking an audience, or a cruel opportunist feeding the media's hunger? In the end, every lead seems to vanish into the fog of 1947. Every name added to the list of suspects is followed by a question mark. The truth didn't just disappear, it became a part of the city's ghost story. Elizabeth Short left no diary. No final confession. No clear path to the truth. Her story has no conclusion, only fragments of lives, memories, and unanswered questions. The killer was never caught. The letters were never traced. The motives remain unknown. And yet her name lives on. In history books, in newspapers, in true crime discussions. A story that haunts the streets of Los Angeles, the pages of history, and the imagination of anyone who dares to wonder what really happened. Some say the truth vanished with her. Others say it is still out there, hidden in shadows, waiting for someone to find it. The Black Dahlia remains a mystery, not because of what we know, but because of what we can never fully understand. If you found this story intriguing, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chilling case. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.